We're going to cover the basics of title blocks here and show you how to take one of your existing title blocks, save it as a new family, and edit it to the correct size. Start to put some info on it that will transfer from sheet to sheet. So I'm going to open a sheet that I have here and hover over the border, which will show us that this is a title block family. And if I click it, you can see that this is TB22 by 34 intro. And I can change it here to another family, but what I'm going to do is go up to Modify and Edit Family. And this is probably your first experience in Revit editing a family. So whenever you edit a family in Revit, it opens up in another tab, and you can see that the name changes here to whatever the RFA file is. You can also go to File, Open, Family, and you can navigate to where the title block family is somewhere else in your server or on your local hard drive. When you're editing a family, you can see that you have a condensed version of your tabs here. So we only have Create, Insert, View, Manage, Add-ins, and Modify. We're mostly going to be dealing with Create and Modify here, where we're actually selecting what's kind of a template version of the sheets that we're going to load into, or the title block that we're going to load into one of our sheets in our project. So here you can see I have a border, and this has a line style of title blocks. We can change this in the future, but there will be a whole tutorial on line weights and subcategories of line weights. And you can see when I select this border, there's a couple things that pop up in the properties here. One is visible, but another is length. We can also create a dimension here to show us how big the title block is. So if I run DI, or I do modify under the dimension tool, under measure, we can select one line and we can select the other, and they have to be sort of perpendicular or parallel to each other. And then if we click off to the side, you can see that now we have a dimension. So we'll do that again for the width. Click one side, then the other, and we'll click off somewhere in the white space. We'll hit escape a couple times, or hit modify to get out of the command. And you can see this is a 22 by 34 sheet. Before we modify any of these elements, we need to make sure that we save this as a new family. So if we reload this into our project, we're not changing the 22 by 34 family, we're creating a new 24 by 36 family. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, Family. I'm going to find a location for it and call it 22 by 34 6 title block. And let's add a test moniker to this. So I will save. And now you can see at the top we're editing the 24 by 36 rather than the 22 by 34. As with all families in Revit, if we duplicate or we save as a new type, the name does not necessarily associate with what's in the family model itself. This is just a moniker so that we can figure out what the family is representing. So be diligent about the names of your families and the types of your families, and make sure that they associate properly with what is actually inside the family. So to change this from a 22 by 34 to a 24 by 36, we're going to select the element that we want to move, which is this top line. And you can see that when I select this line, this dimension now becomes blue, and I can click into it. So this will be 24 inches. Another way I can do this is I can sort of mentally add the distance. So if this needs to go to a 36, I will go select what I want to move and run the move command either under modify or MV, and I will move it 2 inches. Whenever I move something, you can see that there is a dimension string that shows me how much it's moving, and it's snapping to 1/4 inch intervals. If you zoom in a little bit, you'll see that it gets a little bit more precise, and if you zoom out, it'll get a little bit less precise. So we're going to move this 2 inches. We can also type 2 inches here. And now we have a 24 by 36 border. For right now, I also want to move these 2 inches. These are actually invisible lines, so they are guiding lines for us, but they will not print out if we don't want them, because we have a parameter associated with it called visible. We'll go more into instance and type parameters in the future when we have a deep dive on parameters and parameter types. One more thing to cover here before we reload it into our project is if we go up here under properties, you can see we have a family types button. So because that family that we were editing was a 22 by 34, which had multiple family types, those family types still exist. So if I select into 17 by 11, you can see that nothing really changes here, and that's because the family of parameters associated with the 17 by 11 don't have anything to do with the size of these elements. We're gonna have a deeper dive on these parameters, but for right now what I want you to do is go ahead and delete everything except one of these. So let's keep the cover option. So we'll go to blank and hit this delete type button, and now we only have one family type. And we're going to rename this. We're going to rename this 24 by 36 cover. The more and more you deal with family and family types, the more comfortable you'll be with this process of editing the names and making sure the family types are taken care of. We can leave everything else on, hit OK. Now we're going to save it with Control S or using this save icon here. And what we're going to do is we're going to load it into the project. Now if I go to a sheet, it's actually going to ask me to place this title block. I'm going to just click anywhere, and what this does is now we've imported this 24 by 36 test family title block file. So if I go over here to my families under my project browser, I can actually find that this is now loaded in. And if I actually undo, you can see it goes away, but it's still loaded in. So what I want to do is, instead of keeping this, I'm just going to delete it, select the title block that I actually want to change. Under the properties, navigate to the new element, choose this 24 by 36, and you can see that it's properly changed size. So this is 2 feet by 3 feet. So now we've changed a title block by editing the family of a 22 by 34 title block to a 24 by 36, renaming it and loading it back in. You can always change it back to what you had in the first place by changing the family back to what you had previously.